Hello my fellow readers. In this video I'm going to talk about my top books of 2024. I think it's going to be my top 10. I'm looking at them. I have a huge stack of books next to me. A little worried they're going to topple over, but hopefully it is okay. I think prior to pulling up the stack, I have two, and they probably would be at the bottom of the list anyway, but two that I want to mention that I do not have the physical copy of. And the first one I think would be Last One at the Wedding by Jason, oh gosh, I cannot say his name, Ruzelek? I don't know. He also wrote Hidden Pictures, which I loved that book, and it combined like actual imagery with the book, and it just tied it all together. It's kind of like a paranormal, so there's a bit of horror with this whole like crime mystery. That was a good book. For this year, we had Last One at the Wedding, and this one followed a father who is invited to his daughter's wedding, and he and his daughter, we don't know much of what happened, but we know that their relationship is currently strained, and the daughter suddenly contacts him one day, invites him to dinner, and announces that she's going to get married and would like him to come to the wedding. So because they've had this strained relationship, he desperately wants to regain his daughter's approval, and he agrees to go to the wedding. However, all of this suspicious stuff starts happening around the man that his daughter wants to marry, and so he would like to tell his daughter not to marry into this family, but at the same time he is unwilling to like take that strong of a stand because he doesn't want to lose his daughter. This to me has very like Murtaugh family vibes, if you remember that whole thing where like rich people are kind of able to get away with a lot, and the family that his daughter is marrying into is very, very wealthy. And so the little key element that kind of clues our main character into maybe there's something wrong with the family is he receives like this warning that this family had a daughter who was seeing the son and went missing. And so it's kind of like watch out for them, because they're able to even commit acts of murder and get away with it. And so watch out for your daughter and yourself. And so yeah, it just becomes this very like entangled, twisted story of a guy that's trying to protect his daughter, who is uncovering this mystery of this family, but there's also a very big surprise element to the story and why he and his daughter's relationship is strained, and so I will not spoil the whole thing, but I thought that was a really good book and I enjoyed it very much. That would be entering in at like number 10 for my top of the year. I really liked it. My next book that also is kind of that whole crime thriller, even though originally she still writes women's stories, like the women are always the center and there's usually a women's health element. This one, she's definitely like swayed more into the full-on thriller books, and that is Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. Now Sally Hepworth like made a big smash hit a couple years ago with The Good Sister, and if you haven't read that book, you should read that book. It's very good. And since then, really, her books have been a bit more like crime thriller books. And in this one, we follow a group of women who consider themselves sisters. Years ago, they were taken in, they were fostered by this woman who is very particular. Like she's odd, and the home life wasn't that great for the girls. And they all kind of found their way away from that life, but they're kind of called back into it when the property of their foster mother is discovered to have a body of a young girl on it. And so it's really uncovering the crime of who this girl is, or baby. I think it's a young, like toddler, young child age. But it's trying to uncover who this person is and what happened at this house. And so you get to see the stories of each of the sisters and what happened and how what happened has impacted them, and also uncover who is the person that they found in the yard and what happened with the mother. It's a good story. It's captivating. It's well told. Sally Hepworth is an excellent writer. If you haven't checked out her books, like I said, please check them out. They're fantastic. You'll have a good time, especially if you like more of like the thriller crime area. Like just go for it. You'll like it. And now I'm looking over and I'm trying to determine what should I talk about next. I think a lot of these are going to be kind of in no particular order because I love them all, and I hate like saying one is above another, but here we go. My next on the list is Fragile Enchantment. Fragile Enchantment is probably, I think, my only YA book that is on here. I don't really read that much YA, and I don't love as much YA. Honorable mention, little YA tag goes out to Darker by 4 for this year. I really love that book. But Fragile Enchantment is by Alison Saft, who wrote a bunch of other books that I also enjoyed. But this one just had so many elements that I loved. Our main character gets called to be the seamstress for a prince. I think it was a prince, if I remember, but a noble lord. And he is curmudgeon-y. But the two sort of form this bond with her being his special tailor, and it's just lovely. And I want to get into it, but it's just lovely. Like I did, I believe, do a full review of this, so if you're interested, watch that. But it's just the relationship between the two. There's like a cozy element, but I also I just love the relationship. Let's face it, I love the relationship. I thought it was really well told and great cast of characters. I enjoyed it very much. I love this edition. This is my Fairy Loot edition. It was a Fairy Loot book. There's actually quite a few here. Not quite a few. My honorable mentions, there's more of a few. I did enjoy a lot of my Fairy Loot books this year, but this one, if you want the romance, you want kind of cozy fantasy, this was so lovely. I just enjoyed it a lot. So I think that's the thing. She can, if I remember correctly, I should have read the little synopsis beforehand because it's been a while since I read this, but she has the ability to sew spells into her creations, but it also can drain her life force, if I remember correctly, and that was why she had the strand of her hair that's a different color. It's from her losing her life force. But anyway, lovely. Loved this. It was a joy. Next, I'm going to go with one of the only romances I'm putting up there because this one stood out to me and I very much loved it, and I'm getting a special edition of this from Fairy Loot. It's my second favorite of the Ashley Poston books, and it's a novel love story. This one is following a fan of a fiction series. So I don't know, imagine you were big fans of Debbie Maycomer, and one day everything's kind of going wrong for you. You lost your relationship with someone you thought you'd spend the rest of your life with, and you normally go on this great trip every year with your friends, and you kind of celebrate the writing of Debbie Maycomer, and you just have a great time. But this year, everybody's canceled on you, including your best friend, who just so happens to also seems to have found the love of their life, and so you feel alone and lost, and then suddenly you decide to go on the trip for yourself, get into a bit of an accident, but find yourself in her writing world. That's what happens to our main character. She ends up in her favorite author's fictional world, and she meets this great guy that she feels very connected to, and she worries the whole time about who his chosen love is supposed to be according to the author. And she doesn't want to really bring this up with him, but at the same time she's always thinking she's not meant to be with this person and be happy. And so our struggle as the readers are trying to believe in this couple and that their love can make it, and figure out why and how that can happen when it seems like she's landed in a fictional world. But it's lovely. I enjoyed this very much, and I think you should give it a read. Alright, the next one is another one that I loved. I don't remember if I talked about this, but it was Meg Schaefer's The Lost Story, and this tells the tale of, how do I describe this? There's so much that goes into this. There were two friends that disappeared into the woods when they were in their teens, and they never really talked about what happened. and where they had disappeared to for all that time and what happened to them. They haven't really talked about it. The one friend has sort of sequestered himself in his family's like cabin home, where the other friend has ever since this time gone out and found missing children or missing persons in general. That's been his role in life, is to find the missing people who were sort of like him. And one day he is approached by this young woman who wants him to find her sister. But it just so happens that the sister that she lost many, many years ago, because she was older, it's a bit of a complication here with her story. She, I believe, was actually adopted, and so she didn't grow up with a sister. Then she discovers that she had a sister, and that her sister is missing, and so she's trying to find the sister because it's like her last relative in the world. So the big snafu with what happened to the sister is that the sister disappeared in the same woods that they disappeared to, and so now suddenly we get, one, the two friends kind of reuniting, and then two, we have to get the backstory of what happened in the woods. And what follows is this like amazing tale that's kind of, it's a portal fantasy, and you get to see where they actually disappeared to, and you do get to find out what happened to the sister, and it's just a charming story. I loved this one so much. Meg Schaefer writes wonderful like human stories and relationship stories that just can get to the heart. She also wrote The Wishing Game, which I would highly recommend. And yeah, give this one a read if you want a kind of a blend of your fiction and fantasy. Next on the list is a very recent read of mine that I was not sure about, because it is my only one on here that is actually a web novel. So this is technically only volume 1, but it's going to be Under the Oak Tree. I loved this, and I think if you're a big fan of romantasy, you should try Under the Oak Tree. This one follows Max, who is a noble lady who essentially has been abused by her family. And we'll just say at the start of this, Max is about to be reunited with her husband, who she only spent one night with. And so she really doesn't know what to think, because in the time that her husband has been off on a war campaign, she has been victimized and abused by her father and his staff people. I'm pretty sure it's the whole staff people. They've warned her that like he's not going to want her, he's not going to be with her, and it's all her fault. She speaks with a stutter. She's fine other than that. I think part of the stutter is also from the severe stress and abuse that's been placed upon her. But they're just always telling her how unworthy she is and that he's going to leave her. And, you know, she didn't serve her wifely duties when he left. Like, she must not have satisfied him, and he's going to... It's just horrible. They're very abusive. So when he gets there, and I'm like, what's his name? Riften. There we go. I'm like, I know what it is. When Riften gets there to take her home to their wedded home, he's acting very like kind of angry, and so she is worried that what they've been telling her is true and that he doesn't really want to be with her. He's going to divorce her. It turns out that in part, like, one, Riften has no idea about the abuse that she's been suffering, and I think through the whole thing Maxie hasn't said like anything. The other problem is where he does have anger at her, is he feels that she has been this kind of spoiled noble lady and that he wasn't good enough for her, and that's why she didn't go to their home, since he had established like he has a home where she should have been the lady of and caring for, and she hasn't. She's spent the past, I think it's like 3 years at her father's house. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. She doesn't know. He doesn't know. He has no idea that she's been pretty much held at the father's house and told how unworthy and whatever she is, and that she really is a victim of abuse. He has no idea. So it's really about the two kind of learning to come back together. She really needs him to tell her he doesn't want a divorce. It does actually happen. I mean, him telling her it's no divorce. He does like have to actually spell it out to her that he has no intention of divorcing her. He doesn't want a divorce. If she wants one, he would give it to her. But he has no desire to leave. He's actually very kind of enamored of her. And so there are steamy bits in this Just be aware. I liked it. I like their relationship. I like seeing what's happening, finding out the political backdrop of the story. There's still a lot more to go, I think. This, again, is just volume 1. And it's beautiful. This is a standard, like, this was the edition of this book, and it's gorgeous. But it was also really good. I mean, this is just, I like them. There's other characters that are being introduced. There is a whole, like, magic system background as well. I'm intrigued, and I look forward to finding out what happens next. That's it. Next, I think I'm going to do my only graphic novel that I am including for books. Like, usually I just separate the two. But I was like, listen, if I'm going to talk about my favorites of the year, I'm going to talk about this book because, I don't know, I found it kind of like just advertised to me. I bought it on a whim, and I've loved it ever since, and that is Nina the Starry Bride. I love everything about Nina the Starry Bride. I love it. I love that you have a character that, you know, she kind of was contentedly a street urchin kind of child. She didn't mind, like, doing whatever she needed to do, but she does suddenly find herself thrust into the royal world and having to deal with royalty and what's expected of her. Also coming to terms with the fact that she can't just do what she wants because of that. So even when it comes to choosing who to love, she's not free to do that. And I don't know, I love it. I find it compelling. I love that, you know, there is kind of a love triangle happening here at the present time. I think I still have a volume or two that I have to read of this. I look forward to it. I guess I'm kind of saving it. But I think digitally there's more, but I'm not going to get into that. I love it. I'm going to be honest. I would love for her to end up with Prince Azure, who we also know was kind of in the same position as her, because I think they are so similar, and I would really love to see, like, kind of two underdog children who were just taken and made to do stuff that they didn't necessarily want to do. I would love to see them win and have their love win in the end. And also I just love the lengths that they've both been willing to go for one another, the sacrifice that they've been willing to make. I don't know. I would love that, but I also know that they have to overcome a lot in order to do that. But that would probably be my happy ending. I like the other prince. He's prince, right? Not the king. He's technically prince because the brothers are kind of fighting for... Anyway, I like him as well, even though he has kind of a darker twist to him. I like him, but I don't know. I'm going to be Team Azure, I think. But yeah, I love the characters. The drawings are beautiful. I love them. It's good. And so this is going to be on there. I thought about a lot of other things to add, but, you know, if I'm going with my heart, this is one of my tops for the year. And I think before I do my top 3, because these would be like my top 3 from the year, I'm just going to do some like honorable mentions. And listen, I had a lot that I kind of wanted to talk about. From last year, I would say there's some from TJ Klune. They did like a re-release of Wolfsong, that series. It's got werewolves, but I loved the characters and the character interactions from that series so much. The first book, I think, is my favorite from it. And I think the final book, because it wrapped everything up. Beautiful. Kind of makes you want to cry. That was great. I also loved Somewhere Beyond the Sea, the second book from House on the Cerulean Sea. I loved getting to see the characters again. I liked that the stakes were raised a little bit, so we got to see more of the world and how it really impacted them. I just thought that was really good. I had a lot of others. Like, I had a huge list of, like, honorable mention books. There were great books out there, and they're still there. My next two, I kind of consider them sort of on the same level. They're both, like, fairy stories, and I enjoyed both of them this past year, and I have them both from Fairy Loot, and that is The Courting of Bristol Keats and A Feather So Black. This one tells the story of a young woman who kind of needs to discover who she really is in order to move forward with you know what, this one also kind of is the story of someone who has to discover who they are. They both get kind of swept up with like a fairy lord and stuff happens. Yeah, these are good to be kind of on the same level. I liked both of them. They were very enjoyable. If you're looking for more of like that fairy story, these are good to pick up. And then two more that I also kind of feel on the same level and are in the cozy fantasy area is The Teller of Small Fortunes and Honey Witch. And these two are both my Fairy Loot editions of the book. Both of them, I think, have great, like, characters overall. You want the whole relationships. This one has a love story in it. So, actually, there's, like, 2 love stories. If you're looking for more of a love story, go with The Honey Witch. The Teller of Small Fortunes is more found family story. And in this, they go on an adventure. Yeah, I'd call it an adventure. One, to sort of free our main character from what would you call it? Like the regulations from being controlled by the powers that be that would want to use her magical ability. But also, they're on a journey to save one of the main characters, or discover. Like, they don't really know what happened to her, but one of our other characters, their daughter went missing, and so they're going on the journey to find the daughter. This one, it's really just she has to discover her own abilities and protect the land that she's been given. And there's romance in it. And a hidden secret that happens that twists it all up. But I would say these 4 are like my real big honorable mentions where I would recommend these books. And I would tell people to give them a read. But I love Nina the Starry Bride more than those books, so that's why that made it to my list of full books, even though it's a graphic novel. All right, next. Oh boy. This is where definitely I do not have a number one. I loved all of these books so much. I was recommending them to people as soon as I finished reading it, just because I knew. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Magician's Daughter. I did talk about and review this one. This is perfect for fans of Howl's Moving Castle. In this one, our main character, she's been sequestered on this island like her whole life. She doesn't know the world outside, but she wants to desperately. Her guardian is do they call them mages in this? I never remember, but he's like a wizard, a mage, whatever. And that's Rowan. And, you know, she's always kind of talking to Rowan about life and can she have more. But it takes some other things happening to get that to kind of move forward. But as the story unfolds, like 1, Rowan goes missing. But 2, it turns out like their relationship, there was stuff going on. And so he's been trying to protect her from everything that's happened. My favorite parts of this is that he has a familiar / companion that is a little rabbit that talks and can also turn into a boy. And I love him. He's just so cute. I love that character so much. I love the relationship between Biddy and Rowan. And I always forget his name. What's Little Bunny Boy? Does it say it in here? Oh, I don't think it says it on the back. I feel so bad because it's been a while since I read this, so I don't remember all the character names. But it's really like their relationship, the lengths that they're willing to go to protect and save one another. I love it. There's so much about this that is so good. The world building is good. Like, it's not like overdone. Like, I hate it when people get too detailed. It bores me. I think it hits a right balance. From this, I wanted to read more from H.G. Perry. This has been my favorite so far. I did read the other books, but this has been my favorite. I'm really looking forward to reading the latest book, which I think is like the last Fairy Door or something. I bought it. I have the book, the physical book. I just haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm looking forward to it because I'm hoping it's more aligned with this than the other books, but it's just delightful. I love the characters. If you want just kind of an historical, cozy vibe, reminiscent of like a Howl's Moving Castle, like this is the perfect book for that. You'll have a good, nice weekend read. I don't know. I loved this one. I wish I could say more, but it really has been like a while. Like, it's definitely stuck with me. I can remember what happened, but one, I don't want to spoil anything. And two, it's like, I don't know. It just gets hard to talk about the further away you are. My next one, did I review this one or just talk about it? I don't remember. I've definitely talked about it though, and that's The Spell Shop. I loved this book so much. The flying cats, the talking spider plant. Like, what do you say about this book? This follows a librarian, and she has been working at like the Royal Library for years in her special collections section. But there is suddenly a revolution in the country, and somebody has set the library on fire. It's horrifying. But she has managed, with the help of Kaz, to load a bunch of their special collection books, which just happen to be on magic, into a boat, and she and Kaz flee the library, and they head back to her hometown island. And when she gets there, she occupies her parents' house and starts to rebuild it, but she's also trying to discover what to do with the books. She ends up using some of the books in order to make the land come alive and to grow plants, and she decides like she's going to start a jam business where she'll make and market jams to people. This is still cozy fantasy, so it's not really high stakes. It's her being on her homeland, her reconnecting with the people of the village, her making a life for herself, because she's always been kind of alone and quiet as a librarian. And she reconnects with a childhood friend, and there's a light bit of romance in there. It's just cozy and nice. It's like drinking a warm cup of hot chocolate or getting a nice hug from somebody. There's not much else. Like, it's not much else to say. It's brilliant. It's cozy. It's what I needed this year. I really appreciated a lot of the cozier fantasy vibes, but especially the characters and the character relationships. That's what I really value and appreciate in stories. Some people don't. For me, it's number one. I need good characters and good relationships in there. I love you, book. And this is my gorgeous, who put out this one? Was this Owl Crate? I'm pretty sure this was Owl Crate. And I love it. It's got the little flying cats and the mer horses. There are mer horses, which I know some people will be like, no, blah, 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 stupid. I loved them. I mean, they're just horses. But they're not like the main characters. They're just kind of like in the background. Lastly, this does not make it number one, because like I said, I think these three kind of tie for my top. But lastly, it's Sorcery and Small Magics. I have yet to do my full review of this book, but one day I'm going to do it. This is a Rivals to semi-love story. Again, it doesn't really go into a love story because stuff happens that makes it not able to be like a love story at this point. But if you take away the other part that's keeping that from actually happening, I think there's always been an attraction between the two characters in this. But they were school rivals. The one is like the perfect student. The other has trouble like performing his spells. Well, it's kind of interesting because in the way that this magic system is set up, one of them actually casts the spells. The other ones are the ones who write the spells. So our main character is the one who writes the spells, but he only does small magics. There's a reason for this. It is not that he can't actually do large magics and the higher sorcery. It's more of a protection thing, but I will let you uncover that. Meanwhile, our other one he was from a poor family. He knows that if he gets to be top of his class and does really, really well, he can become nobility, and then he can bring more wealth to his family and his home. And so these two have always like kind of collided, because our one that does small magics, he is from a noble, rich family. And so there's a clash there where the one thinks that this one is kind of a layabout who doesn't take advantage of the opportunities that's been given, whereas he thinks the other one is a priss who is too stuck up and too set on schoolwork and doesn't enjoy the finer things in life. But the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that's why I really compare and liken this one to Pride and Prejudice. There's just also magic and monsters in it. And I just had a good time with this. I loved the character interactions, the magic. I don't know. For me, again, it comes down to the characters and the relationship, because that's always number one for me. I loved seeing the characters' backgrounds, like getting to know who they were and why they would do what they do. And I liked it a lot. And I just really, really hope that more people discover and like this book, because I think it's worth it. And that's about it. There is one final, like, I guess, one final recommendation that would totally have been at my top of the list. But maybe I'm going to hope to do a reread this year, because this is the actual release year, and then I'll promote it this year. It's for A Harvest of Hearts. That one I will totally recommend. It is not out until March, so I didn't want to put it so much in this video because it's not out yet. So like I can't recommend everybody read that book because it's not out. But come March, I'll probably have a review with it. I'll probably own the book and hopefully do a reread or a listen. I would love to have the audio. I don't know if there's going to be an audio for that book, but I would love for there to be an audio. Hopefully around that time I can revisit that book because I loved it. It's another one that definitely is like Howl's Moving Castle-esque, and I just had such a good time with it. It is great, but I won't get into it because it's not out. But I think that that really would have been my 10th book had it been released in 2024 instead of me just reading the ARC in 2024. But yeah, let me know what you think. Have you read any of these books? Do you want to read any of these books? I really loved these books. I would give them to people. Actually, I have let people borrow them just because I loved them so much. They will, I think, forever be on my recommendations. I will continue like just promoting them and saying like you should give them a read. But that is it for this video. That's it. Until next time, bye.